Jack owned a small store on the corner of a busy street. It wasn't much, just a simple shop filled with everyday items. People often passed by, but few ever stopped. It wasn't the kind of place that drew attention, but for Jack, it was his world. He had inherited the shop from his father, and though business wasn't booming, he was content. He'd wake up early, open the door, and wait for the occasional customer to come in. One afternoon, as the sun began to set and the streetlights flickered on, a woman walked into Jack's store. At first glance, she seemed like any other person. Her name was Lily. She had long brown hair that hung loosely around her shoulders and wore a simple, faded blue dress. She wasn't tall, nor did she have an imposing presence, but there was something about her that made Jack pause when she entered. "Good evening," Jack said with a smile as he straightened up from behind the counter. Lily smiled back, though it was soft and a little shy. "Evening," she replied. Quietly, Jack watched as she walked down the aisle of his store, her footsteps barely making a sound. She moved slowly, as if she were lost in thought. Jack didn't think much of it at first. She seemed like one of those people who didn't want to be noticed, someone who simply wanted to buy something and leave. But there was something about the way she moved, the quiet calm around her, that intrigued him. Lily picked up a small jar from the shelf and examined it, turning it over in her hands. Jack noticed she seemed to know exactly what she was looking for, even though he didn't have many high-end items in the store. "You like that one?" Jack asked, trying to make conversation. Lily looked up at him, her brown eyes meeting his for the first time. "Yes," she said softly. "I've been looking for this for a while." Jack raised an eyebrow, surprised. "That's a rare item for a shop like mine. Didn't think many people came in for things like that." Lily smiled, but it was brief. "I've learned to notice the little things." Jack couldn't help but wonder why she chose to come to his store of all places. It wasn't the kind of shop that people came to for rare things. But maybe there was more to her than he realized. He watched her pick up a few more items, small trinkets, jars, and book sand. Place them in her basket. There was a quiet energy about her that he couldn't explain. Jack had always been a good judge of character, and something about Lily made him want to learn more. She didn't seem like the kind of person who would speak much, but there was an air of mystery about her. She didn't look like anyone special, yet there was something in her presence that made the store feel different. When she reached the counter, she placed her basket down gently. "How much for all of this?" she asked, her voice steady but soft. Jack scanned the items. There weren't many, but they were enough to fill the basket. "It'll be about $15, he said, picking up each item and adding up the cost in his head. Lily nodded and reached into her bag for her wallet. As she did, Jack noticed something strange. Her hand was delicate, almost too delicate, as if she had never worked a hard day in her life. Her fingers were long and her nails were perfectly shaped. Couldn't explain it, but there was a certain elegance to the way she moved. She handed him the money, and Jack gave her the change. As she took the bag and turned to leave, she paused for a moment, almost as if she had forgotten something. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice soft but sincere. Jack smiled, watching her leave. It was then that he realized she had left, without a sound, almost like she had never been there at all. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something about Lily was different. There was something hidden beneath her calm and quiet exterior, something Jack couldn't quite put his finger on. The next day, Lily returned, and the next, and the next. At first, Jack didn't think much of it. She was just another customer. But as the days passed, he began to notice something odd. Lily never bought anything new. She always picked up the same items, the same books, the same trinkets. She would leave with a soft smile, never saying much, but always thanking him, as if she was grateful for something more than just the things in her bag. Jack tried to make small talk with her, but she was always polite and brief, never giving much away. Still, he couldn't help but feel a strange connection. Couldn't understand why, but he looked forward to seeing her every day. He started to notice the little things, like how she seemed to know the history of every item in the store, even the ones he had forgotten about. He tried not to read too much into it. Maybe she was just a quiet person who liked to come into his shop for the peace and quiet. But Jack couldn't ignore the feeling that there was more to Lily than met the eye. As the days turned into weeks, Jack began to wonder about her. Who was she really? And why did she come to his store so often? He had seen many customers come and go, but there was something about Lily that kept him thinking. What Jack didn't know was that Lily wasn't just an ordinary woman. She wasn't the kind of person people would notice at first, but she was about to change everything in his life, starting with the simple, quiet store he thought would always be just another small shop in the corner of the city. Jack wasn't sure when it happened, but he started looking forward to Lily's visits. She came by every day, always around the same time, just before the sun began to set. Her presence had become a quiet comfort in his otherwise uneventful life. There was a calm about her that Jack found himself drawn to, something peaceful that seemed to quiet the noise of the world at first. They exchanged small-talk questions about the weather, a brief comment about the items in the shop. Nothing too personal. But over time, their conversations began to grow. Jack learned that Lily didn't have many friends. She would mention her long walks through the city, her love for reading, and how she often spent her free time studying strange and rare books. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make Jack curious. One evening, as Lily came into the store, Jack couldn't help but notice how tired she looked. Her usually soft smile was replaced with a quiet expression, as if she was deep in thought. She didn't immediately pick up any items to look at like she usually did. Instead, she walked straight up to the counter and placed a small package in front of him. "I have something for you," Lily said, her voice quieter than usual. Jack raised an eyebrow, surprised. He had never expected her to bring him anything. "What's this?" he asked, glancing at the package.
Ash.
It was wrapped in simple brown paper, tied with a string. Lily hesitated for a moment, almost as if she was unsure of herself. "It's a book. I thought you might enjoy it. I know you like old things, and this one's very special. I found it in a small shop I came across." Jack carefully untied the string and opened the paper. Inside was a leather-bound book, its pages yellowed with age. The cover was worn, but there was a certain beauty to it. The title was written in a language Jack didn't recognize, but the design was stunning. "This is amazing," Jack said, genuinely impressed. He looked up at Lily, his curiosity growing. "Where did you find this?" Lily smiled, a little more brightly this time. "It was in a small, forgotten corner of the city. I thought it might be just the thing for you." Jack couldn't stop looking at the book. It was clear that Lily had put thought into this gift, something so unique and special. "Thank you, Lily. This really means a lot." Lily nodded, but instead of leaving, she stayed for a moment longer. Jack noticed her gaze was focused on the book, almost as if she was waiting for something. He didn't know what to say at first, but then the words came. "You know, you don't have to keep coming by every day. I'm sure you've got better things to do." Lily's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, Jack saw something in her that he hadn't noticed before: vulnerability. "I don't mind," she said softly. "I like the quiet here. It feels safe." Her words caught Jack off guard. He wasn't used to hearing someone talk so openly about feeling safe. His shop wasn't much, but it was all he had. To think it could be a place of comfort for someone else made him feel something he hadn't expected: pride. "Maybe, well, I'm glad you feel that way," Jack said. "I'm happy you come by." For the first time, their conversation felt more personal, and Jack couldn't help but notice how comfortable Lily seemed in his presence. She was still quiet, but her walls were coming down, piece by piece. As the days went on, their bond grew. Jack found himself waiting for her visits, eager to see her and hear her soft voice. He began to learn more about her, how she had grown up in the city, how she had spent much of her life reading and learning on her own. Lily spoke little of her past, but Jack could tell that she had experienced things that shaped who she was. One afternoon, as Jack was restocking a shelf near the window, he noticed Lily standing in front of the shop, looking out into the street. She didn't seem to notice him watching her. There was a distant look in her eyes, as if she was lost in thought. But it was more than that. There was a sadness in her expression that Jack couldn't quite place. She caught his gaze and smiled faintly. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Space out. Jack walked over to her, concerned. "Is everything okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. Lily hesitated for a moment before she nodded. "I'm fine. Just thinking about some things. I don't mean to bring any trouble to your store." Jack shook his head. "You're not causing trouble, Lily. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. I know we don't know each other that well, but I'd listen if you wanted to share." Lily looked at him, her eyes softening. For a moment, Jack thought she might say something more, but instead she simply smiled. "Thank you, Jack. I'll keep that in mind." As the days passed, Jack started to realize that his feelings for Lily were changing. She wasn't just another customer to him. She had become someone he looked forward to seeing. He couldn't explain it, but he felt a deep connection to her, even if she still kept much of herself hidden. And Lily, well? She seemed to open up, just a little more each day, as if Jack's kindness was slowly helping her trust the world again. What neither of them knew was that this bond between them was about to change everything, not just for them, but for the world around them. Jack's small store was about to become the starting point for something much bigger than either of them could have imagined. Jack was starting to look forward to his afternoons more and more. Lily had become a regular part of his life, and each time she walked into his store, it felt like the day was brighter. The quiet moments they shared together felt peaceful, and Jack found himself learning more about her with each passing day. He wasn't sure what it was, but there was something about Lily that made him feel like he had known her forever. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight filtered through the store's window, Jack was wiping down the counter when he heard the familiar sound of the bell above the door. He looked up and smiled. It was Lily, as usual, but this time she looked different. Her face was serious, and there was something in her eyes that Jack couldn't quite place. "Evening," she greeted him, but there was a hint of nervousness in her voice. "Evening, Lily," Jack replied, his smile fading slightly as he noticed her unusual mood. "Everything okay?" Lily hesitated before she spoke. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you. Something important." Jack stood up straighter, his curiosity piqued. "What's going on?" Lily glanced around the shop as if making sure no one was listening. The usual calm demeanor she carried was gone. Instead, she looked almost unsure. "I've been keeping something from you, Jack. And I think it's time I told you the truth." Jack felt his heartbeat quicken, unsure of what she was about to say. He had learned to trust Lily, and yet he could sense that what she was about to share would change everything. "I'm not who I seem to be," Lily said quietly, looking down at her hands. "I'm not just a regular person. I come from a long line of people with abilities. Abilities that go beyond anything most people can imagine." Jack was stunned. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily took a deep breath, collecting her thoughts. "I come from a very old family, one that's been hidden for centuries. We were once very powerful, but after something happened a long time ago, we were forced into hiding. Now, I live a quiet life, trying to stay out of the way." Jack didn't know what to think. At first he thought she was joking, but the seriousness in her eyes told him she wasn't. "You're telling me you're not just, well, normal?" he asked, his voice thick with disbelief. Lily nodded slowly. "That's right. I've been hiding in plain sight for a long time. My family were once feared. People in the galaxy knew who we were, but that's all changed now. We've kept ourselves hidden, and I've tried to live a quiet life, blending in." Jack was still trying to process what she had said. But why? Why keep all of this a secret? "Because the world isn't ready to know about us," Lily said. "If the wrong people find out, it could be dangerous. People like me, people with powers like mine, were hunted. We've been hunted for centuries." Jack sat down behind the counter, trying to absorb everything she had just told him. "Powers," he repeated. "What kind of powers are we talking about?" Lily looked out the window, her face thoughtful. "I can do things that most people would call impossible. Things like seeing into the future, reading minds even. Was controlling things with my mind. But these aren't gifts we can just show off. If others knew, they would come after me, and I don't want that. Jack felt a shiver run down his spine. He had always known there was something special about Lily, but this was something he hadn't expected. So you're telling me you've been hiding all of this, all this time? Lily nodded. Yes, I've had to live quietly, keep to myself, and never let anyone get too close. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Jack, but I think it's time you knew. Jack was silent for a moment, trying to make sense of everything. He had always thought Lily was just a quiet woman who enjoyed books and peace, but now she was telling him she was part of something much bigger, something he couldn't even begin to understand. I don't know what to say, Jack admitted. This is a lot to take in. Lily gave him a small, apologetic smile. I know it's a lot, but I wanted you to know the truth. I trust you, Jack. I always have. Jack looked at her for a long moment, his mind racing. He had always felt there was something about Lily that set her apart from everyone else. But hearing her story, he realized just how true that was. She wasn't just a quiet woman. She was someone with a powerful hidden past. I'm not sure what this means for us, Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. But I'm glad you trusted me with this. I won't turn away from you, Lily. You've been nothing but kind to me, and that's all I need to know. Lily's eyes softened as she stepped closer to him. Thank you, Jack. You don't know how much this means to me. Jack nodded, still processing everything. He didn't know where things would go from here, but he knew one thing for sure. His life was about to change in ways he couldn't predict. Lily wasn't just an ordinary woman. She was someone with a powerful secret, and now Jack was part of it. Jack and Lily moved quickly through the narrow alley, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the thick fog of the evening. The streets ahead were empty, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. He kept looking over his shoulder, but there was no sign of the men in dark suits. They had to keep moving, no matter what. Lily, her face pale with fear, stayed close behind Jack. Her hand gripped his sleeve tightly as they walked. Jack could feel the tension in the air. They were being hunted, and every corner felt like a new danger. I'm sorry, Jack Lily whispered as they turned another corner, the fog swirling around them. I didn't mean to drag you into this. Jack didn't look at her, keeping his focus ahead. You didn't drag me into anything, Lily, he said, his voice steady. I chose to help you. I'm not going to leave you now. They kept walking, heading towards a small park that Jack knew would offer some cover. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Lily hadn't said much since they left the store, but Jack could tell she was scared. The quiet woman who had always seemed so calm was now visibly shaken. Jack had never seen her like this before, and it made him more determined to protect her. They reached the park after a few minutes, and Jack led her to a small bench hidden behind a group of bushes. The park was quiet, and the streetlights cast long shadows across the path. It was the perfect place to catch their breath and figure out what to do next. Lily sat down on the bench, her hands resting in her lap. Jack stood in front of her, pacing. As he tried to think, we need to figure out where to go next. Can't stay here for long. Lily nodded, her eyes looking distant. I know, but I don't have many places to turn. The people after me are too powerful. They'll keep searching until they find me. Jack stopped pacing and looked at her, his mind racing. We can't let them find you. We need to hide you, keep you safe. Lily sighed, her shoulders slumping. I've been hiding for so long, Jack, but I've run out of places to hide. They always find me. Jack knelt in front of her, his voice soft but firm. Not this time. We're not going to let them win. I'll help you. I'll keep you safe. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, Jack could see the fear and uncertainty she had been hiding. Thank you, Jack. I never expected someone to care. Not like this. Jack reached out and gently took her hand. You're not alone anymore. I won't let them hurt you. They sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of their situation settling in. Jack could feel his heart beating faster. He had no idea what was coming. But he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going to let Lily face it alone. Just as they were about to stand up and move, Jack heard something, a faint noise, like footsteps on the gravel path behind them. His heart skipped a beat. He turned around slowly, scanning the dark park for any sign of movement. Lily, sensing his unease, looked up at him. "What is it?" "I think they found us," Jack said, his voice low. He could hear the sound of footsteps growing louder. Moving closer, they both stood quickly, looking for a way out. Jack's mind was racing. He couldn't afford to be caught, not now. He grabbed Lily's hand again and started running, pulling her through the park toward the street. The footsteps were closer now, the men in dark suits closing in on them. Jack didn't stop running. He knew they had to get to safety, but he didn't know where to go. Didn't have a plan, just a strong desire to protect Lily. He could feel her hand trembling in his, but she kept running beside him, her pace matching his. "Jack, where are we going?" "Lily?" gasped as they rounded a corner, the sound of the men's footsteps still following them. "I don't know," Jack replied, trying to keep his voice calm. "We need to get to the edge of the city, where it's less crowded. Maybe we can lose them in the alleys." They turned another corner, and Jack spotted a narrow alley just ahead. It looked like it led to a quieter part of the city. "This way," Jack shouted, pulling Lily down the alley. They ran as fast as they could, their breath coming in quick. Heavy gasps. The alley was dark, and the buildings on either side seemed to close in around them. But Jack didn't stop. He couldn't. He had to get Lily to safety. After a few more turns, they reached a small, deserted street. Jack could hear the footsteps behind them, but they seemed to be losing ground. The alley had led them to a part of the city where fewer people lived, and the men in dark suits seemed hesitant to follow them into the unfamiliar area. Lily stopped to catch her breath, her body shaking. Jack stopped with her, trying to make sense of everything. They had made it this far, but they couldn't stay here for long. The men would keep searching, and they had to figure out where to go next. "We need to find somewhere to hide," Jack said, looking around the quiet street. "But we need to be careful. They'll keep looking for us." Lily nodded, her face pale. "I don't know where to go, Jack. I've never been this far from the city center." Jack thought for a moment. He knew a few places around the city that might offer some cover, but they had to act fast. They didn't have much time before the men would start searching again. "Follow me," Jack said, taking her hand once more. "I know a place. Safe. We'll stay there for now, but we have to hurry." As they moved deeper into the quiet streets, Jack couldn't help but feel a surge of determination. He didn't know what was going to happen, but he would do whatever it took to keep Lily safe. The next few days were filled with a mix of confusion and curiosity for Jack. Lily's secret weighed heavily on his mind, and as much as he wanted to understand everything she had told him, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. He had never imagined that the quiet woman who came into his shop every day was hiding such a powerful truth. Lily didn't visit the store for the next few days, and Jack began to wonder if she had decided to keep her distance after revealing her secret. He missed her presence, even though he knew he shouldn't feel this way. She had come into his life quietly, and now that she had shared something so personal, Jack couldn't help but feel a deeper connection to her. On the fourth day, Jack was restocking the shelves when the door to the shop opened with its usual chime. He looked up to see Lily standing in the doorway, but this time her expression was different. She wasn't her usual calm self. There was a look of urgency in her eyes. "Lily," Jack called out, walking toward her. "Are you okay?" Lily stepped into the shop but didn't answer right away. She closed the door behind her and looked around, almost as if she was checking to make sure no one was watching. Her face was pale, and her hands were trembling slightly. Jack could tell something was wrong. "I need your help," Lily said, her voice low but urgent. "There are people after me." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, people? After you? Who are they?" Lily took a deep breath and glanced around again, as if she was debating whether to tell him more. "They're not just regular people. They're part of an organization that hunts down people like me. People with abilities. They've been looking for me for years, and now they've found me." Jack felt a cold chill run through him. He had suspected something dangerous might be tied to Lily's past, but hearing it from her own lips made it all too real. What do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice shaky but determined. How can I help? Lily hesitated for a moment. Before speaking, I need you to trust me, Jack. I need to leave here and go somewhere safe. They won't stop until they have me. If they find out you're involved with me, they'll come after you too. Jack's mind raced. He wanted to protect Lily, but he knew little about the people she was talking about. He only knew that they were dangerous, and that they wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. But one thing was clear. Lily was in trouble, and she needed his help. Where do we go? Jack asked, his voice steady now. He wasn't going to let her face this alone. Lily looked at him with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. You're willing to help me, even after everything I've told? Jack nodded. I trust you, Lily, and I'm not just going to stand by and watch you run from these people. I'll help however I can. Lily's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, Jack saw the weight of everything she had been carrying. She had always kept her distance, hiding her true self, but now she was opening up in a way she never had before. Jack realized just how much she had been holding back, how much she had sacrificed to keep herself safe. Thank you, Lily whispered. I don't know what I would have done without you. Shh. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll figure this out together. Before Lily could say anything more, there was a sudden noise outside the shop. It sounded like footsteps too many for just one person. Jack's heart raced as he quickly moved to the window and peered through the blinds. What he saw made his blood run cold. A group of men in dark suits were walking down the street, their faces hidden behind sunglasses. They were heading straight for the shop. Jack's mind instantly went into overdrive. These were the people Lily had been talking about. The ones who were hunting her. We need to move. Now, Jack said, grabbing Lily's arm. We don't have much time? Lily didn't hesitate. She nodded and followed him as he led her to the back of the store. There was an old alley behind the shop, a place Jack had never used before. He had always avoided it, but today, it was their only option. They stepped out into the alley, and Jack quickly locked the back door behind them. The footsteps outside grew louder, and Jack could hear the muffled voices of the men as they approached. The shop Lily's face was a mix of fear and determination. Where do we go from here? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack looked around, trying to think fast. The alley was narrow, but it led to another street a few blocks away. Could take her there, but they couldn't stay in one place for too long. We're going to keep moving, Jack said, his voice firm. I know a place we can go, a safe spot where we'll be hidden for a while. Lily nodded. Thank you. I don't know how to explain what this means to me. Don't mention it, Jack replied, looking over his shoulder one last time before pulling her into the shadows. We'll get through this. The two of them walked quickly through the alley, the sound of the men's footsteps growing louder. Behind them, Jack's heart was racing. He didn't know what was coming next, but one thing was certain: his life, and Lily's, would never be the same again. Jack and Lily had been walking for what felt like hours, moving quickly through the narrow streets and alleys of the city. They didn't stop, only paused long enough to catch their breath before continuing on. The cold night air seemed to press in on them, adding to the tension that had already settled between them. Every sound, every rustle in the dark made Jack's heart race. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The people who had been chasing them were still out there, and they wouldn't give up until they had found Lily. Are you sure this place is safe? Lily asked, her voice quiet but full of concern. Jack looked ahead, trying to focus on the path they were taking. It's the safest place I know. A friend of mine runs a small apartment nearby. He owes me a favor. He'll help us. They reached a small, nondescript building in the heart of the city's quieter district. It wasn't much, just a gray, weathered apartment complex, but to Jack, it felt like a fortress. He knocked on the door 3 times, the sound echoing in the empty street. After a moment, the door creaked open, and a man with a scruffy beard appeared. Jack, the man said, his eyes narrowing as he looked at Lily. What's going on? Are you here in the middle of the night? Jack stepped forward, his voice low and urgent. We need your help. We're in danger. The man's eyes flicked to Lily, and for a brief moment, Jack could see the recognition in his gaze. He must have heard rumors about Lily's kind, the mysterious, powerful people who had once ruled in secret. Jack didn't want to explain everything just yet, but he knew they didn't have much time. "Let us in." "Marco, please. It's not safe out here," Jack insisted, glancing over his shoulder. The feeling of being watched was getting stronger. Marco hesitated for a moment before stepping aside to let them in. "Come on in, then." "Ow. Call in some favors, but you better explain what's going on." Once inside, Marco locked the door behind them, and Jack led Lily to a small living room. The apartment was modest, but clean. Marco didn't live in luxury, but he had a way of making the space feel homey. With warm light coming from old lamps and the scent of something cooking in the kitchen, Lily sat down on the worn couch, her hands resting on her knees. She still looked nervous, and Jack could tell she was trying to hold it together, but the stress of running and hiding was starting to show on her face. Jack couldn't blame her. He was feeling it too. "Tell me what's going on," Marco said, sitting down across from them. "Who's after you?" Jack looked at Lily, unsure of how much to reveal. She had shared a lot already, but now the danger felt real, and Jack couldn't help but wonder how much more he should know. Lily nodded, her expression serious. "They're an organization," she started, her voice steady. "They've been hunting me and my kind for years. They know what we can do, and they won't stop until they find every one of us. They've been tracking me for weeks, and now they're closing in." Marco sat back, rubbing his chin. "Heard of them. Dangerous group. If they're after you, they'll stop at nothing." "But you said there are more like you." Lily nodded. "Yes, there are others, but I've been alone for a long time. I'm the last of my family, the last of the ones who had the power. The others, they disappeared long ago." Jack listened to her, his mind racing. He had never imagined that Lily was the last of her kind. The weight of her words hung in the air, and Jack couldn't help but feel a deep sadness for what she had lost, but there was something else in her eyes too: determination. She wasn't ready to give up. "You don't have to do this alone, Lily," Jack said, his voice firm. "We'll figure it out. We'll find a way to keep you safe." Lily looked at him, her eyes softening. "I don't want to keep dragging you into this, Jack. You don't know what they're capable of." "I don't care about that," Jack replied. "You're not alone in this. I've got your back." Marco stood up, pacing. "You're right, Jack. We'll need help. You're not going to outrun them forever. We'll have to move fast and stay ahead of them. I have some contacts, people who can help us get you out of the city." Lily's eyes flicked nervously too. "The window. We don't have much time. It could be here any minute." Jack turned to Marco. "How long can we stay here?" Marco's face grew serious. "Not long. Maybe a few hours, at most. Then we have to move again. You're good at finding people, and if they have anything on you, they won't stop." Jack didn't want to think about what might happen if they were found. They couldn't afford to wait around. They had to act quickly, and that meant making a plan. "We need to get to a safe place. Somewhere they won't find us," Jack said, his mind already working through possible options. "I've heard of a place, a house on the outskirts of town. It's far enough out that it might be safe." Marco nodded. "That's a good idea. We'll need to move quickly, though." Jack turned to Lily. "Are you okay with that?" Lily looked at him, her face unreadable. "I don't have a choice, do I?" She stood up, her posture straightening. "Let's go. We have no time to waste." Jack could see the strength in her, the quiet resolve she had been hiding. He was proud of her for not backing down. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. They didn't have all the answers. But Jack knew one thing: he wasn't going to let them take Lily without a fight. The house on the outskirts of town was quiet, tucked away between tall trees and distant hills. It was an old farmhouse, worn from years of neglect, but to Jack, it was the perfect place to lay low for a while. He had hoped it would be far enough from the city to keep them safe, at least for a little while. But deep down, he knew the danger wasn't over. The people after Lily wouldn't stop until they had found her. Lily sat on the porch, staring out at the horizon, lost in thought. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the field in front of the house. The quietness of the place felt strange, almost unnatural, given the chaos they had left behind. But Jack could see the weariness in Lily's eyes. She had been running for so long, and Jack could feel the weight of it, pressing down on her every step. He joined her on the porch, sitting down beside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was comfortable, though. They didn't need words to understand each other. Jack could feel the tension that had built up over the past few days slowly beginning to ease. But it wasn't gone entirely. You're still worried, aren't you? Lily didn't look at a while. Lily didn't look at him right away. She kept her gaze fixed on the distant hills where the sky was beginning to darken. I don't know if I'll ever stop worrying, she said quietly. I've been running for so long, I've lost everything. And I don't know if I can ever go back to what I was. Jack reached over, placing a hand on hers. He knew she was talking about more than just the men chasing them. He knew there was a part of her that felt lost, even without the danger. You don't have to go back, Lily. Whatever happened in the past, it's behind you now. You don't have to run anymore? Lily finally turned to look at him, her eyes tired but grateful. I don't know how to let go of all of it, Jack. There's so much I've been hiding, so much that I've never told anyone. Jack squeezed her hand, offering her a reassuring smile. You don't have to tell me everything right now. We'll just know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. She took a deep breath, then slowly nodded. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you sooner. Jack felt his heart race slightly. He had suspected there was more to Lily's past than she had let on, but hearing her say this made his pulse quicken. What is it? Lily stood up, her face soft but serious. Bad. She paced slowly back and forth on the porch as if trying to find the right words. I've told you a little about my family, about how we were once powerful. But what I didn't tell you is why we were hunted in the first place. It wasn't just because of our abilities. It was because we were feared. Didn't interrupt. He waited for her to continue, even though he could sense the heaviness in her voice. My family. We ruled over an ancient empire. We were the ones who kept balance in the galaxy, the ones who maintained order. But power like that doesn't last forever. People started to fear us, fear what we could do. And then one day, everything changed. A war broke out, and it destroyed everything. My family was scattered, and the empire fell. We've been hiding ever since. Jack stood up and walked over to her, his mind spinning with the weight of her words. Your family? They were rulers? You were part of something huge. Lily nodded slowly, her eyes distant. I was, and I never wanted it, but I didn't have a choice. I was born into it. I was supposed to be the one to rebuild what was lost. But when the war came, everything was shattered. And now, I'm the last one left. I don't even know if there's anyone else out there anymore. Jack's heart went out to her. He could see now just how much she had lost, how much she had given up to stay hidden, to stay safe. But she was stronger than she knew. She had survived everything that had come her way, and Jack was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to rebuild what had been lost. You're not alone, Lily, Jack said, his voice firm with conviction. You're here now, and whatever happens, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way to make sure they don't get to you. Lily turned to him, her eyes bright with something between hope and gratitude. You really think that? Jack smiled, softly. I know it. We'll fight this together. You don't have to face this alone anymore. The moment hung between them, and Jack could see the tension in Lily's body starting to fade. She had been carrying the weight of her past for so long, and now Jack could feel her beginning to let go, just a little. It wasn't easy, but it was a start. We'll figure it out, Jack repeated, his voice calm and steady. And when this is all over, we'll find a new way forward, a way where you don't have to hide anymore. Lily finally smiled, a small, genuine smile that reached her eyes. Thank you, Jack, for everything. Jack nodded. We're in this together, Lily. You're not alone. As they stood there side by side, the weight of the past still lingered, but there was a new sense of hope in the air. I didn't know what the future held, or what dangers still lay ahead. But for the first time in a long while, they both felt like maybe, just maybe, they had a chance to change everything.